15 seconds. All right, we'll get started. It is 7:15. Call the meeting to order. The first will be the flag salute. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bullenbacher.
Here.
Mr. Chandler. Ms. Compatello.
Here.
Mr. Marks.
Here.
Mr. Oliverio.
Here.
Ms. Pakalnik.
Here.
Mr. Rodilla.
Here.
Mayor Perry.
Here.
Solicitor Jewett today.
Here.
And myself. Thank you.
Great. All right, the consent agenda. We have the council meeting minutes from June 8th, our bill list from today. Also reports, and they're all listed there, the manager's EMS, the library we take off that comes every couple months. So you need a motion to approve the June 22nd, 2023 consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Marks,
Second.
Ms. Compatello, any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. President or public comments on agenda items. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. No signups? Okay. On Zoom, you just raise your hand.
No one signed in Zoom right now.
Okay, great. President's report. I have nothing to report. We have it in the agenda today. Mayor's report. Folks, you have to, yeah, she forgot how to do the.
Forgotten how to, yes. Good to be back. Oh,
Yep.
well, it's going to still be recorded. Yes. So, hey, good to be back. Missed you guys. I understand that there's been an uptick of speeding on Crafton Boulevard that we've had a lot of complaints about. There's been the speed monitor has been set up. There's confirmation that yes, indeed, that's happening quite a bit. And we can expect ramped up enforcement in the coming weeks. More on that later. Then it's that time of year, the burning issue. It's a burning issue. So we have an uptick of calls coming in, complaining about persistent and smoky and smelly burning. So what I'd like to do is remind everyone that the intent of our burning ordinance is for occasional fire pits during, evening hours with definitely clean wood, clean burning options, and that neighbors are who are bothered by the smoke or the smell have a right to issue a complaint, but the way that has to be done is by calling 911. That way our police department will get the call and respond at the time that the issue is going on. Reporting it to the borough during daylight hours when it's not going on, there's just no way for us to effectively enforce it. The ordinance does provide for if there are neighbors who are bothered by the fire and they call in a complaint, that the fire has to be put out. And our police department does respond to those and require and monitor that happens if they're called in real time while the issue is going on. And that And then I have two items from Senator Fontana's recent newsletter that I wanted to bring up. The first is a new Welcome Home PA program for veterans. And the Welcome Home PA site includes information on employment opportunities with the Commonwealth, private sector, and quite a number of other resources. And I've talked to our borough manager, who will put a link to that program on the website with more information tomorrow. So any veterans coming home and looking for those types of services can check on our website. And then the other really important thing is that the deadline for the property tax and rent rebate program, which is normally June 30th, has been extended to December 31st this year. And that rebate program benefits eligible Pennsylvanians age 65 and older, widows and widowers age 50 and older, people with disabilities age 18 and older, whose income is $35,000 a year or less for homeowners and 15 annually for renters. And just as an aside, that half of the Social Security income is excluded from being considered on that income level. Again, we'll be posting information about that on the website. So any of our residents that want to check that out will be able to get a link and have a few months to make the application for that program. And that's it today.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Solicitors report, Ms. Stewart.
I have nothing to report to you other than thank you for having me this evening in Steve Corbell's absence. And if there's anything I can do to assist, please let me know.
Thank you. Managers report, Mr. Price.
Thank you. Okay, the first thing I wanted to give everyone a quick update on the pool pass. It has been operating well. We have sold 274 memberships, accounting for more than 992 individual members. So that's been very successful and we're happy with the way that's been operating. We also have heard the concerns and complaints that we have had to close the pool so many times. So we're looking at ways to operate on a skeleton crew so that we're not incurring a significant cost to keep the pool open. It has been a very odd year with weather. We've rarely gotten above 70 degrees on many days. So on the days that we've closed. So just we have heard your complaints and concerns, and we're working to try to make sure the pool stays open as long as possible. It is supposed to be cool again early next week, so hopefully we'll be able to keep it open a little longer for those folks who like to go on a regular basis. A couple other things to add to the speeding on Crafton Boulevard. We are also on the administration side working with PennDOT. We're setting up a meeting with PennDOT to see what we can do to add some traffic calming measures on that street, what options are even available. And we are posting the required speed limit change signs. If you do not have a sign saying that the speed is reduced, and that speed does reduce from 35 miles per hour to 30 at the top of the hill, then the police are unable to ticket people. So we are working on adding signs to that to accommodate new enforcement, and then looking at traffic calming for that. And then on the next item on my list is the Public Works Collective Bargaining Agreement that we have up for a motion. So I would like a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement negotiated with and approved by the Crafton Public Works Bargaining Unit.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Bogenbacher, Mr. Marks, discussion. So this agreement was reviewed. It's been going on for several months now. The agreement had expired in March of this year. And you have the ability to negotiate that agreement past that time period. And it's been reviewed by not only myself, of course, the borough manager, and all of council in executive session. So any of the changes and everything have been approved, and the term is for 3 years, correct? Yeah. So it'll be 3 years from March.
Correct.
Yeah. Wait, any other comments or questions?
Are there any highlights worth mentioning about changes to the CBA from the last one?
I don't know that there are significant ones. The largest one that people are usually concerned with is the overall cost. We are giving a 6% raise in the first year. We've had 2 years of almost 6% inflation, and then the next 2 years are 3.5%. Which is generally around what they were getting in the past. That's the biggest change. We did change the area in which people can live. We've expanded it to include to be not 5 air miles, but 30-minute drive time, so that it's a little more in line with why you use that measure in the first place, is to make sure that people are close enough to respond to snow events and whatnot. And that also gives us a much larger pool to choose from to hire people. Those are probably the 2 biggest ones. There's other minor changes in there. We're allowing people to bank comp time instead of overtime, which should save the borough some money, but allow public works employees to be a little more flexible with their time off. So those are probably the biggest changes.
And it looks like we, did some comparisons to like Green Tree, Dormont, Carnegie, Scott, a couple of other neighboring communities, and we're still staying in line, but competitive, but still relatively cheap compared to as far as wages go, right?
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Anything else?
That was for me. No, that was it.
Okay, sure. Hey, standing committee report, finance and administration, Ms. Perry.
Okay, well, we did have a meeting this week. It was a very good meeting. What we saw is that the administrative staff and our outside financial consultant been doing some serious ongoing work to improve the reporting and the visualization of the numbers, and that was very encouraging. They've also been doing a deep dive into each of the categories to spot errors and trends, and it looks to me like they're really teeing up some good analysis for us ahead of our next budget season, where we'll be able to look at some things, I think, a little more strategically, as opposed to just rolling numbers over and that sort of thing. That was also very good. We took a deep dive into the budget versus actual through the end of May, not quite half the year. The overall tracking is very close to budget. There haven't been any large unexpected expenses. There's a few places where we're a little over, a little under, but all told, at the end of the day, we're really close to tracking to our budget and coming out. So there are really no red flags that we're seeing at this time. The other big thing is that our bond worksheet, our manager and the key consultant from the financial consultants did a deep dive into that, updated it, and added some features to it. All of these things have been posted on the drive for you all to review. And if you have any questions, I'm sure Mr. Price would be really happy to answer them for you. The one thing that I want to point out is that the bond sheet that we have right now shows a balance at the bottom that is for the Broadhead project. It is still showing the full anticipated cost and will be updated, and we should see that number go up by as much as $1 million, depending on the choices that this council makes in the upcoming meeting, where you'll be making a decision about how you're going to be modifying that project. And I think that's about it. Questions?
The comments as being a part of the finance committee and seeing the reporting, the accuracy, the attention to detail on every single item as we go through them is extremely commendable, and moving forward from a council perspective is to see that, as in the past, it wasn't always that crisp and clean. So, you know, kudos to the staff and also to our consultant and the group to making sure that we are fiscally responsible and transparent.
Yeah, I would say, I just feel like we've reached a tipping point where we've really got a sea change here in the handle on our finances and the strategic look at the finances, as opposed to, you know, just trying to do the same old thing every year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, community services and infrastructure, Ms. Compatello.
Sure. Well, the first item on the agenda was just referenced by the Finance Committee, the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project. We had a thorough update from the engineer at our last council meeting, who walked through the initial design and several of the design options. The council and the engineering committee have been working over the past number of months to explore different alterations, different possible approaches towards the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project, since we didn't get as much grant funding last year as we hoped. And we have, in the meantime, continued to proceed with pursuing additional grant funding, and we've received some of it. But at our last meeting, we looked at several different options. They were all shared during council and described by the engineers, and the council plans to vote on that final plan at our next council meeting on July 13th. Unless there are any questions, we had a pretty thorough description of that last time. So if there are any resident comments or questions, you have until July 13th to ask those. But at July 13th, we'll be making that decision. And like the mayor said, that will impact where we are at with our bond at that point. The next item for my committee is the 2023 road paving next steps. This one has also been on the agenda a number of times over the past few months. We have a regular paving schedule each year. And a few months ago, we looked through the streets to be repaved this year, set on that schedule of streets and voted on it here in council. So this is just an update and reminder that those streets are going to begin paving. Paving is scheduled to begin the week of June 26th. That's next week. Letters have been hand delivered to each resident on the street scheduled to be repaved. We'll be posting updates on Savvy Citizen, and the contractor will be posting notices of when their work will begin on each street. Residents will have to move their cars from 7 in the morning until 7 in the evening each day, but they will be able to park on their streets in the evenings and overnight. The complete list of streets to be paved can be found through a link that's posted on the agenda that's online. And a short recap of those, there are portions of different streets, but it includes portions of Station Street, Johnson Street, Chartiers Avenue, Kingston Avenue, Crafton Boulevard, and Chest Avenue. Also, Crafton Boulevard Streetscape Phase 2. We are still waiting for the last several lights to be installed. In addition, we'll be testing the new lighting configuration sometime in June. We've talked about this the past few meetings. We don't have a date set yet.
No, we're still unfortunately waiting on the parts for the other one. So we were going to do it when we got those parts so that we're already up there working. And that's how we were going to do it. We did get the fuses in for them. So the wiring will go away. That will be attached. But the heads are still, we've just been having really serious issues with supply chain. So.
And again, the new lighting configuration that we'll be testing is that the lights that have already been installed, we've had comments and concerns from a number of residents that the way the lighting is installed, it falls more on the street than on the sidewalk. There were reasons why they were installed that way that have to do with our ordinances, but we are looking at testing whether they can be turned and still fall within what our ordinance will allow. So we'll be testing sometime in June or in the next week or two. We'll update it in the next council meeting if it hasn't happened yet. We'll be testing turning a few of those lights 90 degrees to see if that configuration is better. Next item, the multi-municipal zoning project update. There is a joint planning commission meeting that's joint between Crafton and Ingram. They meet jointly every quarter. So there will be a joint Crafton and Ingram Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday, June 27th. Those meetings are posted on the Borough website. They are open to the public. And at that point, the zoning project will be discussed. So that's a multi-municipal zoning project between Crafton and Ingram, both participating. And it's going into its third and final phase. So if anyone is interested in that planning commission meeting will be open to the public, and we'll have more updates to follow in coming months. And then finally, the pool bathhouse. The final pool bathhouse design was presented to council at the June 8th, our last council meeting. We shared designs on the screen at that point, and the engineer was here in person to talk through the designs, and we talked about some of the changes that had been made and why they had been made. They were done in collaboration with the pool staff. And one of the major recommended changes that came up at that last presentation was there were some concerns about the flow of circulation and the placement of doors, particularly coming in and out of the break room where the first aid station is located. So we talked about adding a door and adding a door that would exit directly from the break room to the pool side, as well as moving the main door from inside from where the reception space is to the hallway closer towards the pool. Just to make it easier for lifeguards to be able to exit quickly in the case of an emergency. So those two changes have been added to the plan. If approved, the bid will be advertised, and then we'll be awarding that project at the August 10th council meeting, which will keep us on track for fall and winter construction so we can open the pool on time next year. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the final Crafton pool bathhouse designs and direct the borough engineers to move forward to the next phase of the project.
Second.
Mr. Mark, second. Discussion. There was a couple meetings ago, a thorough presentation by the engineers on the structure of the pool house. All the information is on the website. This project has been going on for 2-3 years, maybe
Before
longer.
our time.
Right, way before we've been on. So this has been a long time coming. And then we had the grant when we received less of the grant money than we expected. But any other questions?
I can add one thing. I did have a chance to look at the energy consumption of the building, and it is well within being able to put solar panels on it. It consumes more than 45,000 kilowatt hours a year. So we're gonna look into what that would take.
That's good to know. That was a comment that someone raised at the last meeting, and it does not impact this project at this time, since redoing the roof is not a part of this project. So we can continue to look at the opportunities to add solar panels at any time. I do want to, and perhaps the mayor can fill in more context since this did start a while ago, but I do believe we received the grant funding we expected, but costs escalated over a period of time because this did go on for a while.
There's a combination of things. We did not get as much grant money as expected, and also the costs did escalate. I think that there was some, from the original design, over time there were additional things added that also accounted for increase in cost.
And there's one other minor change, just for clarity purposes, that the engineer described last time to the ADA accessible ramp. They had made a minor change to make sure that they had tested the grade and realized that a little bit of an addition needed to be added. And by our last meeting, that had already been integrated and incorporated, but that was addressed at the last meeting as well.
Any other comments or questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else?
That is all for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Community recreation and community events, Ms. Bolenbacher.
All right. The car cruise and vendor show happened this past weekend. The weather was nice. It turned out pretty well. Not as big as last year. So they are going to talk about some ways that they can improve for next year. So this was only the second year, hoping third year's a charm. They're looking to maybe the first year that was too short. This year, they think it might have been a little too long. So they're going to adjust that. And they're talking about just other ways to bring in more people, more interest, and maybe moving the date, because we did find out, I think there were 4 other car cruises in the area. So that kept a lot of other cars in other places. So there was a lot of information on that. The main thing that they talked that was the subject this week, of course, was 4th of July. As a reminder, it's Tuesday, the 4th of July, from 3 o'clock until the end of the fireworks. We are still accepting vendors and food trucks. If you wanted to apply to be part of the festivities, they're taking applications through July 3rd. So you can do that by going to our website. There's a ton planned. There are sweet food, savory food, vendors, bands, games, lawn games, inflatables, all kinds of stuff. So come on out and take a look. Some other topics that were touched upon, but they'll really delve into a little more after the 4th is over, are some upcoming events for the rest of the year. Fall Fest will be October 10th. Haunted Halloween, October 21st to 31st. And again, details all to come on all of these. These are just kind of putting them out there for people to think about for the moment. We're also going to have a light up night. Christmas house tour, I believe, will be returning. And they did make a date for the next senior dinner. That is tentatively Saturday, August 12th. Again, more details to come after they are able to discuss that a little more in detail. And I just wanted to note a couple other community events that are happening in the next few weeks around here. There's yoga at the library every Monday, 7 p.m. We have story time at the library every Monday at 11 a.m., as well as a Lego night every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have aqua aerobics at the pool every Monday and Thursday. And this Sunday is our Pride Festival, and parade. So the parade, I believe, is at noon, and they end at the park for some fun there. So everybody is welcome. And our concerts in the park start next week, June 29th. And they last through the Thursdays through the summer, and they start at 7:30. Our next item is our digital sign. That is still, the design is still being finalized. We are hoping to have that installed either August or September, hopefully, fingers crossed. Our newsletter, we did put the request out for articles, and they are due by July 1st. And once again, we're hoping to have that out early August. Our military banners, there was an update. Jim posted a memo for us to review. And we were hoping to place a motion tonight regarding that memo. Let me see where I am on there. The motion is to approve resolution 2023-13, amending the fee schedule to adjust the prices of the borough's military banner program to account for the cost of processing applications and installing the banners.
So moved.
Ms. Comptello,
Second.
Mr. Marks, discussion?
I know we held this last time for feedback. Did anybody hear anything from anybody? Because I know I got nothing on it.
No, I reached out to a few folks, but didn't get any feedback.
So this is the same fee schedule that was discussed previously?
No, we did change the fee schedule based on research that I did with other boroughs. And most boroughs don't actually do it, or most municipalities, I shouldn't just say boroughs. Most municipalities don't handle this program themselves. The volunteer or the veterans organization that's in their community, whether it's AMVETS or who it might be, handles it. In the few cases that they do, they charge at cost. So our fee schedule is basically splitting the cost with the labor and application cost with the applicant. So we're probably losing a little money on these, but this is supporting veterans. So it's basically every one of them is about a $25 fee. So that doesn't cover our cost, but it's closer. It's basically splitting down the middle.
Okay, and you said other municipalities don't charge for the administrative and installation?
No, not in most of the situations. Yeah, I think one other one did, and I think it was Mount Lebanon.
Okay, thank you.
We also had talked about whether there might be grant funding sources to cover something like this, and we didn't have any that we knew of immediately, but I hope we'll continue to keep an eye out for those things. It'd be really ideal to find grant that would cover, it's not a major expense, but it is ideally an expense that we could cover for our veterans and not make them pay for their memorial.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So motion passes 5-1. Anything else, Ms. Bolenbacher?
I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Commission vacancy. Mr. Price.
Okay, thank you. We have had a new application for one of the positions, and we're in the process of setting up an interview for them. So thank you for them for applying. Otherwise, if you, I will give you a list of what we are still currently looking for. We do have 2 alternate civil service positions open. So if you're interested in helping us decide what our police department looks like moving in the future, that would be a great way to volunteer for the community. If you love throwing parties and planning events, the rec board could be for you. So the rec board still has 1 opening, and there are 3 that will be open at the end of the year, or at least 1 or 2 that might leave the board at the end of the year. But there are 3 that could potentially open at the end of the year. So we're always looking for help with that. If you are interested in helping to make sure that we our zoning ordinances are applied equitably to everyone, participating in our zoning hearing board is also a great way that you can volunteer with the community. And I've already mentioned the rec board upcoming at the end of the year. So with that, that's all I have for the vacancy spots.
Could you possibly detail a bit what the zoning hearing board entails? They do not meet unless there is a reason to meet, and the occurrence, the
Yep.
frequency with which that happens that people could expect if they sign up for this.
Is actually very rare. It's probably the easiest position you could take. However, when it does ramp up, you might have a couple nights in a given month, but we haven't had a zoning hearing board hearing in a while, although we probably will have one scheduled within a month and a half here, and might have another one scheduled. So, but generally speaking, I don't know that we've seen a zoning hearing board in the last 3 years.
So it's very useful and very important to have people on this and have people who are available when one does come up, but it is not something that takes a frequent time commitment.
That's correct.
All right, Council of Governments, Ms. Bolenbach.
The last meeting was the annual dinner, so their meeting was pretty quick. There's not a whole lot to report on that. And the COG is currently on summer break. The next meeting will be Thursday, September 21st at 6:30 at Neville.
Great. All right, community announcements. Our next council meeting is actually in 3 weeks. So there is the first or the second Thursday of the month. So that's Thursday, June 13th at 7:15. The pool passes, Mr. Price talked about that. You can still buy pool passes. It is noon to 7 p.m. is the pool times, and you can visit the website to buy those passes. The miniature golf is open Friday and Saturday nights from 7 to 9. And Ms. Bolenbacher went through our 4th of July celebration starting at 3 o'clock and going until the fireworks end, which will start around 9:30, 30 to 40 minutes after sunset. All right. Any other comments or anything from council? Will we go to public comment? Okay, public comment. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Okay, sure. Oh, you have to.
James Vega, 96 Sterrett Street. Push the button. Just hold it, hold down the button. Green light now.
Okay, James Mangan, 96 Starrett Street. With regards to the speeding that you guys are kind of monitoring on Crafton Boulevard, you could also kind of extend that to Starrett Street as well. Back when that was paved, I believe Phil Lavasser was talking about having traffic calming things kind of there. None were added. So people run that stop coming from Pittsburgh and they like race through my neighborhood. And like kids bike around there, a lot of kids like flying around. But people like really speed, even though there's another stop sign 100 yards down. So if you guys could maybe recommend that somebody was looking into that as well. And then just clarification on the fire burning thing. So are you still requiring that people have permits or the permits?
Yes, the ordinance requires a permit. But even if you have a permit, if it's bothering your neighbors, they have a right to register a complaint and have the fire turned off, extinguished.
So
Sorry.
I was going to say, Ms. Berry, so that wasn't, I guess, clear during the report. So if somebody wants to burn any type of fire or have even if it was just something outside with some friends, they have to obtain a permit from who and whom?
Oh, so they have to obtain a permit from the borough.
Mhm.
And is there anything you want to say about that? It's
Well, I can just say that to the complaint, it's basically if, you can buy, there are fire methods now that are much more smoke-free. And we do have residents that are complaining of people burning all day long. And smoke wafting in windows during the middle of the day. And so really those are the most pernicious ones. So if they're called on, even if they have a permit, they have to put out their fire. If smoke is obviously going into another person's house. And it's up to the officer to make that call, but generally speaking, that's if they have a complaint, they have to put out the fire.
And then just most importantly, the stereo thing, yeah, that's like
Yeah, we can get the tracking up there as well. We have to put it on another street. We already have a call from another street. So once we've tracked that for a while and gotten the numbers, then we'll move it up to Starrett.
Yeah, I like called Pittsburgh about like clearing that like stop sign. And they said, go do it yourself. It's faster. People do just like, they fly right up to.
I will suggest that we lodge a complaint with Pittsburgh regardless.
Yeah.
Because they still have a responsibility, and let's just add on more complaints so that we do share borders, and we'll make sure that that complaint gets passed on to them too.
Yeah, we can just file a 311. Yep.
I think he went off too. I think it's off again.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, and on the burning piece, you can read through the ordinance online, right? I mean, it does say it's pretty thorough in that like you shouldn't be burning trash, you shouldn't be burning basically stuff that's not firewood, more or less. It's a pretty exhaustive list. And that, of course, if smoke and or ash becomes objectionable, offensive, or deleterious to human or animal health, and neighbors are mad, they can call about it. So obviously try to talk with your neighbors first before you call the police on them. But of course you can contact the police department if needed.
And part of that is planning. That's why I mentioned the question is because it's not like tonight, if I want to go home and do a fire, I couldn't do that. The borough office isn't open, so you have to plan to be able to do it and then do your fire. And I don't think a lot of people do that.
It's also worth adding that we do have some pretty poor air quality in the county in general. And when there is an air quality alert, we are not allowed to have fires. That's not unique to Crafton. That's countywide. If there is an air quality alert, you're not supposed to be burning. So a couple of things you're supposed to check before having a fire.
Any other public comments? I think one thing I just thought of right now, I didn't add to the agenda, is the fireworks legislation that we did just I guess it was last year. Do you just want a brief, very quick overview of that? if you remember.
So basically, the state made some changes to residential fireworks, not commercial, like what the borough does. And the code basically provided some options for various municipalities. One of them was to just align with the state code, which at the very minimum says that you cannot put those types of fireworks off within 150 feet of a building or a vehicle or a road. And so this council elected to go with that option and not require permits or requires only certain dates and times. So we just stood pat with the state regulation. And effectively, if you have a location that's 150 feet away from a vehicle, a building, or a road, you can put off these types of fireworks.
There
Yeah.
are very few locations in the
Yes.
borough that
Yeah.
meet that requirement. And I know this came up last year when we were debating it. A few people mentioned that, well, it would be allowed if their neighbor approved it. That is not true. The state regulation is the state regulation, regardless. If it's within 150 feet of an occupiable building, even if no one is home, even if the neighbor says it's okay, it's still against the law per the state.
Yeah, so this was, if you look up the code, right, we passed this in January. And the exact stuff, the exact words say, you can't set off consumer fireworks within 150 feet of a building or vehicle, whether or not the building or vehicle is owned by the user of the fireworks. Period, full stop there. And as far as timing, they cannot be used, they should only be used on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. As far as like very close dates are involved. That's what the code says. So
Yeah. The 150 overrides most of it, because even if it's on those days, that doesn't void out the 150. And I think we determined that there's actually nowhere in Crafton or one.
There
or
are a
two
few places in
tiny
Crafton. There are
places
limited places.
that can do it. So that was just a reminder, because we passed that, way early in the year when nobody was putting fireworks, but we're going to have that coming up in a few weeks. Right. Anything else? Do we have any no comments there? Okay. With that, we adjourn. It is 7:57. Thank you, everyone.